And I noticed that something was off. A big red alarm for me was when I had things in a washer and I had to move them to the dryer. And I thought, this is going to take a lot of energy. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm in fitness and all I need to do is transfer things from the washer to the dryer. And I still couldn't do it. Let me see if I can set this up. I have my notes here too. And so I, like a good girl would, I went to the doctor, which, I still trusted them, but this was the last time. And I kid you not, this man said, I told him what happened. I couldn't take the stuff from the dryer to the washer. I knew something was off. I'm suspecting it's my thyroid. And he says, that's the difference between 20s and 30s. And I was like, you got to be joking me, right? Like, you can't take stuff from the washer to the dryer. That takes a lot of energy. You're going to tell me that's how I'm supposed to feel in my 30s? And so I walked out and I was like, this is ridiculous. He actually did the typical thyroid test that they typically do, which is not even a full complete test, and said, oh, your thyroid is normal. I'm like, what's the answer then? Why do I not have energy to go from the washer, to transfer things from washer to the, like, this is not ridiculous. This is not normal behavior, especially for someone who is in fitness, is eating clean, is working out 5 days a week, is doing all the right stuff. And so I walked out of the office and I'm like, I'm never going to go to the doctor's office again. And I started reading on thyroid. Obviously, like, now I'm thankful that happened, because it took me on this whole road of becoming an expert when it comes to hormones and women and thyroid and how to actually balance things in the body. And I did a lot of experimenting in my whole career, 20 some years in fitness and health. But I will tell you in this video what I did, the 5 main things that I did that helped me heal my thyroid and balance my hormones. And so these are not exclusively only five things, but I put these as the easiest ones to change. And I just think that, they're the quickest, the easiest to change, and they will still make a huge difference. Now, at some point, I'll probably make a long video on all the things that I've done, but I really wanted to get you started because I see so many women having questions about their thyroid, having thinning hair, having sleep disturbances, feeling just something's off, right? And just not feeling listened to. So when you feel something's off, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to, hands down, because this doctor was just completely dismissing me on what's going on. And so here are 5 things that I did that made a huge difference when it comes to my hormones and my thyroid in particular. 1, I prioritized sleep. So sleep was like here and there for me, and I ran on very low sleep, and occasionally when I had time I would take a nap. I was running my fitness studio at the time, and that was obviously not going to work. So one of the things I started doing is, even though I'm a night owl, I started going to bed earlier and earlier till I got a good night's sleep. And that itself, if you just change that, that's going to make a huge difference. So 1, please prioritize your sleep. Start taking supplement for sleep. Now there's a lot there. I'll put in the description the one I used. You can start taking magnesium. That's a huge one because most people are deficient on that. So that's 1. The second thing I started doing is started lowering the amount of caffeine I was running on. Now I know you don't want to hear this, and maybe coffee is your like sanctuary, which is fine. But I'm telling you what I did and what worked is I used to drink coffee, black coffee, on an empty stomach. And I just decided, okay, I think I don't think I need this much caffeine. And so obviously getting enough sleep allowed me to lower the caffeine. And so I lowered the caffeine intake slowly because, coffee was my thing. And then I slowly switched to tea. Now, both coffee and tea are diuretics. So one thing that I did, I used to always stay hydrated, but I drank regular water, and I switched to mineral water, just full of minerals. Now, we need minerals in trace amounts. You don't have to go crazy on minerals, but you do need them daily. And this obviously includes the magnesium and potassium and phosphorus and all of the things that the body needs to function properly. Because when you think about the water that we drink, it doesn't have minerals like it's supposed to. So obviously that fixed the problem. Now, I'm not telling you go off coffee, but if you're drinking it first thing in the morning, you may want to lower the amount that you're drinking and then have water instead before that. The third thing that I'm doing is that I did, this was like 10 years ago, I added the iodine supplement. Careful with iodine because, again, we need it in trace amounts. And me being me, I did it without supervision. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. Or if you buy a supplement, obviously go with a recommended dosage. But iodine, I didn't know at the time until I started doing my research, is absolutely essential for your thyroid function. Now, when you start doing research, you'll find things like, well, most countries nowadays have the iodine added or iodine increased in salt, so most people are not iodine deficient. I beg to differ. If you want to go that route, go to a lab and get your iodine tested. But I'm willing to bet that most people are actually low on iodine. So I took an iodine supplement. I added chlorella, which is a superfood, and then so occasionally I switched with that, and then taking the actual supplement. Don't overdose on iodine because you can have the opposite effects. And again, I'll put the link in the description to the one that I use, as well as chlorella. So you have chlorella and spirulina. They're both pretty much superfoods. Both algae, they do differ somewhat. Chlorella is higher in iodine. The fourth thing that I did is I actually lowered my workout intensity. Mind you, I was in fitness, I had a fitness studio, I was bodybuilding at the time. So for me, this was like, what the heck am I going to do now? Obviously I thought I was going to gain weight and whatever, but that didn't happen. I just lowered the intensity of the workouts because we don't need to train as hard, especially when we're trying to balance hormones and work on our thyroid. So instead of doing about 1 hour workouts 5 days a week, I went to 3 times a week. Well, actually, 1 week, 3 times a week, the next week, 2 times a week. So it was like 3, 2, 3, 2. And then I would take a day off when I really felt that I needed to. It wasn't like, oh, I don't want to do a workout. It was like, how am I actually feeling right now for the workout? Do I actually want to do something? So, and I didn't do the crazy hardcore lifting ego stuff that I used to do before. So that's another thing, that you don't want to add more stress. So when you're fixing or balancing your hormones, your thyroid, you got to work with your whole body. Your cortisol gets really high, and if you're not paying attention, if your stress is too high, and exercise is actually stress on the body. So you're like, well, I'm exercising, I'm doing the healthy stuff, but you're exercising and then not getting enough sleep and then having high stress throughout the day. That's just like running, like you were running a marathon all day long. That's how exhausted your body gets. So I lowered the workout intensity, was 4. And the fifth one that I put here as one of the main things that I did to change was I started meditating regularly. Now, when I suggest this to people, most people will say things like, I can't not have any thoughts. That's really not the point of the meditation. The point of the meditation is, for one, to calm your central nervous system down, to make sure you start feeling safe in your body. Because one of the main problems we have nowadays is people are running around with completely dysregulated nervous system, which means, and this was me for years, which means we're running around thinking that there is a perceived danger. Whenever there's a potential stressful environment, like back in the day, for humans, that meant a bear is chasing you or a lion is chasing you, right? Or somebody from another tribe is trying to attack our tribe, therefore safety is compromised. Obviously, that's not the case these days, but it can literally be your coworker clipping their darn nails at work that's actually causing you to feel some kind of a way. And the problem is, when we're facing danger, we're supposed to fight or flight, which is how we use that built up energy, that built up adrenaline and cortisol. But what happens is, when your coworker is clipping their nails at work and it's pissing you off and you cannot react, you have nowhere to channel that energy. So that energy stays with you. It's like pressing on a gas pedal and the brake at the same time, because you have to obviously not react the way you want to, but you cannot go forward with that. And that's a huge problem with a dysregulated nervous system these days. And so if you start meditating, the one thing that's going to happen first and foremost is you are going to start being aware of your thoughts throughout the day, and with that, of your emotions throughout your day. And that's a huge shift just by itself. The huge change is awareness, because once you start being aware, it's like putting glasses on for the first time. You can actually see what's going on. Now, from that point on, you can slowly start affecting and changing the way you're thinking and feeling. But that's the 5 main things that I did. Now, did I change more things? Yes, I did. But if you just start with one of these, if you're having some kind of hormonal imbalance, hormonal issue, you notice something is off, or maybe it's your thyroid and you're getting dismissed at the doctors, start paying attention to these 5 things. If they're overwhelming, to start all at once, because making a huge change never works, start with one thing. And if I was going to pick one thing out of these 5 things to start with, it would be focusing on my sleep. If I had to do this all over again, and if I had to do one thing at a time, I would focus on my sleep first. I would add the iodine supplement, which is very easy to do. I would start with 1 minute meditation a day, maybe before bedtime. If you're a night owl, that's me, or in the morning if you like to get up early when it's still quiet. But you can find 1 minute a day. And then I would lower, obviously, my workout intensity, and then I would stop coffee. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something new. Make sure to follow for more content on women and hormones and how to do it the right way, because that's what I'm here for. I'll see you next time.